Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, and we're going to give some love to the rhythm section today, man. This is I'm with Mark Hill. We've been trying to get this interview together for like 6 years. And here we are, man. Quick shout out, a couple of messages. One, I want to thank Jeff King for hooking us up. The one and only crazy prankster, Jeff King.
Him.
Everybody knows Jeff. And also Carlos Santana and Joe Walsh. If you guys know them, please, I'd love to have both of them on my show. Connect us. All right, talk about Mark Hill. Born in 1967, grew up in a small farming community in the southernmost part of Illinois, raised in a musical family. It was apparent really early that he had a gift and quite an ear for music. Started playing piano at age 5, picking out melodies of songs he'd heard in church. At 11, he found the bass guitar by chance, and he knew that's what he was going to do. That was his calling.
Yep.
His early days of playing bass consisted of local recordings and traveling regionally in the Midwest with his family. In order to make a living, at 22, he switched to playing for top 40 bands, all the while knowing that a session career in Nashville was what he really wanted. In 1990, that's right, he made the move to Nashville, and he quickly made the producer's list of up-and-coming bass players, securing many master recording sessions. He's a first-call session player, man. Since then, like I said, he's been a first-call session musician known for a strong Fender bass tone, working over 600 sessions a year and garnering 5 nominations for ACM Bass Player of the Year and twice reaching the Music Row All-Stars list. This guy is a first-class human being in every way, an amazing player. He's recorded for artists such as the Civil Wars, Kelly Clarkson, Reba McEntire, which he's still with Reba, Brooks and Dunn, The Lone Bellow, Holly Williams, Brett Dennen, Carrie Underwood, Richard Marx, Hank Jr., Toby Keith. Oh man, did you play? You played with Rich Eckhart?
No, it was probably a different session band for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah. Sorry. Slipped there for a second. Kenny Loggins, Montgomery Gentry, Eric Church, Luke Bryan, Charlie Peacock, and loads of others. In between sessions, he's toured with artists such as Curtis Chapman, Martina McBride, Keith Urban as the band leader, and Reba McEntire, to name a few. And man, he's a funny guy. And this is his first podcast. So I'm breaking his cherry, but I told him I'm going to be very, very gentle.
I've got drinks. Drinks are ordered. They're on their way. Yeah.
And thanks so much for coming on the show,
You're
Mark.
very well. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it, man.
Really glad we got to connect.
Yeah.
So what was it about the bass guitar that hooked you? Because it sounds like pretty much once you grabbed it in your hands, you knew that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, the earliest time I remember hearing bass was, I remember I was getting ready for school and I was watching some kids program and I was probably 8, I don't know, 7 or 8. And I heard Penny Lane.
Oh.
It was just a segue on this kids show and they used that music and I just heard that high bass line and it just made me kind of go, oh, what was that? That was interesting. And then, my family had this little band. They used to rehearse at our house and they had a bass player. They had a guy that played bass for them. Somebody had dropped off a little Mustang bass for me just to mess with. Well, while they were rehearsing in the other room, I was in the bedroom playing along with them and finding out things that guy was doing wrong. And I would come out and go, hey, you're playing that wrong.
Oh my God, that must have went
over.
And
well. he was such a nice guy. He was like, he's right that I should be doing this. So it just kind of flourished into, why isn't this guy playing bass? And at that time I was 10.
Oh my God.
So yeah. And we came to Nashville, did a recording session with some extra session players, some of whom I've worked with recently, which is very strange.
So cool.
And it was one of those things I was so nervous about it. I didn't eat for a week coming up to the session. And so we go in there, we're playing the first tune. And the guy that owned the studio, which is a studio I still work at some today, was a bass player. And the engineers are like going upstairs to get this guy. Like, you gotta come see this kid play bass. I was a little bitty. There's a picture on my website of that session. And I'm sitting there, this little bitty kid playing bass. And once I got a taste of that and I saw these guys playing a song they'd never heard, I was like, okay, that's interesting. So it was, not only did I want to come down here, it was, I wanted to play sessions. The creative part of that really intrigued me.
What about sessions was so, you said the creative part. So in other words, to have 10 different artists in there in 1 week and you got to adapt and deliver
Absolutely.
something. Yeah.
And literally it can run the gamut of Southern gospel to, I've done metal sessions, where it's like,
Really?
absolutely, man. And it's tough, cause you've got to, on the spot, it's usually really riff oriented. It's hard to chart that out because a lot of us don't really read notation as much here. It's more like a number system thing. So you kind of commit to that. I got to learn this riff, and it makes it even better because you're really performing it as opposed to reading it. So yeah, it'll run the full gamut. You'll go country, pop, rock session, and then all in 1 week.
What are some of the metal sessions you did? If you could talk.
Well, it was basically a Christian thing where this dude had written songs based on all the red in the Bible. So everything that was supposedly that Jesus had said, he wrote this guitar riff record around it. And we did 10 or 12 songs in 2 days of that. Yeah, it's called The Red Letters is the name of the record. I think it was multiple artists or something. It was a long time ago, but yeah,
That's wild.
It was a challenge, man. So
that's cool. Now what exactly did your family do musically? You said they had a band?
They had a little gospel band. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was a great way to grow up. It was, we just traveled around and did our thing.
That's really nice, man.
Yeah.
I would imagine that was a very relaxing childhood.
I would say so. Now I grew up on a huge farm. So there was at one time there was a working farm.
Oh wow! What kind of farm?
It was all soybeans, corn, wheat, typical Midwest thing.
Right.
But at one time there was 1,800 acres, and then they weren't all together. It was a farm here, a farm there. So it was a busy childhood.
Oh yeah, so you worked
I was driving a grain truck when I was 14.
Are you looking to buy or sell a home in the Tampa Bay area without having to deal with pushy realtors? Then make sure you connect with West Florida Real Estate. West Florida Real Estate has helped over 300 homeowners and investors buy and sell their properties over the last 5 years. Their service is outstanding, just like back in the days when there was actually service in the service business, and you'll never have to deal with any kind of sales junk when you're working with them. For more information, email Ann with an E at westfloridarealestate.com. That's ANNE at westfloridarealestate.com. If you're enjoying this show and you'd like to support it, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/support. And for information on advertising, visit everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Okay, yeah. So that's the hardest. I think people that grow up on a farm probably work harder than anybody.
Yeah, and there's a lot of sitting because you're sitting on equipment and doing things, but it is still work for sure.
And you're up at 4 a.m.
Sometimes, not all the time. Yeah.
Wow.
You always have the planting season in the spring and the harvest in the fall. Those are the busy times. In the middle, it's not so much. But,
right.
Yeah.
Wow. So what prompted you to move to Nashville? What was the final okay, I'm going now?
Well, I had done that session with my family in 78, I guess, 77. And we came back when I was a teenager, when I was 16 or 17, and did that again, but we hired all session players. So they brought in Mike Brignordello on bass.
Oh, I had Mike on the show. He's great, man.
So he and I are fast friends.
What a resume that guy has.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and he's a mentor for sure.
Yeah.
But he was so kind. He was like, they told him, said, this guy's in the band is a good bass player, and he'd let me play his bass and check his stuff out. He was just very kind.
Yeah.
So, and I saw those guys do that again, and it was just like, by the time I was 16, it was, ultimate focus on being down here. So
it wasn't like a big overwhelming thing for you. It was just like a natural progression.
It was going to happen, and I was too, I grew up in a cornfield, so I didn't realize it was in New York and in LA where session players were as well. It's just, in my mind, it was all centralized in Nashville. So and it was only 3 hours away from where I grew up. So it was easy.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
How did you get work when she came down?
There's a couple interesting stories about that. It's you network because everything you get, you have to be good. You have to be undeniably good. That's an unwritten law. There's different levels of that. And maybe recently that's changed a little bit, but so you get down here and you start networking. You do whatever you can,
What did that look like for you? For
Well, one of the first things was there was a bass player named Jackie Street. He was a black guy, kick-ass bass player, and just a real gentle, nice soul. Definitely in my list of mentors. Somehow I wound up at a lunch. I got to go to a session. Jackie was playing bass. A guy named John Hammond was playing drums, who's still a friend today. And I got to go hang out at this session. I forget how I got in there, but friend of a friend. So I went to lunch with these guys. I'm sitting at the table telling them I just moved to town, and they had kind of heard of me, you know, because I had done a little bit of work in these circles. And John bought my lunch, and you know, it's just nice. You know, it's like
that's such a nice thing when someone is
mentorship.
Little kindness acts like that. When you know they're going out of their way to, it's, man, that I'm with you, man. That feels great. It's really appreciated.
I had read these guys' names on records already so many times, and I'm sitting at lunch with them going, holy shit, this is great. So awesome. during the course of the lunch, I just kind of leaned to the table. I said, guys, how do you procure work? You know, what is do I need to call people? And you know, they just kind of lean back. It's like, oh, it'll happen. If you're good, it'll happen. And I'm going,
that was it.
I'm a doer, you know, I make things happen. So it's like, no, I need more than that. And they just said, you just have to be patient. You'll work with somebody, they'll recommend you. You'll be on a session with another group of guys. One of those guys will recommend you, and then it just becomes a snowball. Well, Jackie sat there and didn't say much, right? He just kind of nodded along. Remember, this is the bass player, gentle soul, one of the most beloved bass players ever. So, you know, we say our goodbyes. By the time I get back home, which is probably, I think I had a few things to do that afternoon, and I got home at 4:30, 5 o'clock, back to my little tiny apartment with my couch and an answering machine. You know, that's before cell phones, so sure, that's all I got, couch and an answering machine. I get back, and there's light blinking on the answering machine. And I'm like, cool. So I play the message and say, hey, this is so-and-so. Jackie Street just recommended you to do this showcase that he can't do.
Oh, man.
I'm like, holy shit, they're not kidding. That's how it works. Holy crap. Jackie,
you didn't know that what you were doing, that's how it works.
Right.
That's so cool.
So
wow.
I get to this showcase, right? And it's one of those showcases where you show up in the afternoon, you rehearse through the afternoon, you take a break, and you play that night. It's just a one-day thing. Well, remember, this girl had told me that Jackie couldn't do this showcase, so he passed it off to me. Well, I get there, and we're playing, we're rehearsing, you know, and I look back, and at the console stands Jackie Street. And I'm going,
oh my God.
I'm going, first of all, I was terrified because I'm playing in front of my mentor, and he's such a badass. And I'm standing there looking back, and I'm going, what the hell is Jackie doing here? You know, he had a big master session. He had to cancel this to go do that. So how could he be here? And so we take our little break, and I walk back to the console, and Jackie, he was kind of snaggletooth, and he had this way of, he would always, when he laughed, he'd come cover his mouth. And that's about all you get out of him, you know? So I walk back there, and I'm like, Jackie, how are you, buddy? What are you doing here? And he just went, and he didn't say much, and he left, you know, and he was gone. And so I'm thinking, it's just, you know, there's question marks over my head.
Sure.
And so we get up on stage, we get called up to do the show. Jackie's back at the console. And I just got a thing saying the internet was, are you still good?
Yeah.
Okay,
totally.
cool.
It walked out for a second. Yeah.
So I playing the show, there's Jackie again. And dude, it finally hit me. He just gave that to me because he wanted to foster, mentorship. This definitely used to be a mentorship town. I'm not sure it is as much anymore.
Wow.
But he just basically called him and said, call this bass player. He's needing some work. And he passed away a few years ago, and they told the story at his funeral.
Oh my, man.
I just got
goosebumps when you told me.
I mean, that's the, just
wow.
Think how secure he is or was in what he did to do that for a young bass player, you know?
To be that kind.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, look, he probably didn't quote need the money, but it cost him to give. It did cost him to give you his, you know, he gave up his money. You know, that's almost like that's like incredibly kind and charitable of somebody. Not charity, but charitable.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's
And I've
wow.
certainly tried to pay that forward. And through my career until he passed away, he did that. He would recommend me for work.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
wow.
Isn't that a great story?
Oh my God.
I was up there playing and I was looking at it and I went, oh my God. And after the show, I went up to him and said, Jackie, you just threw this my way, didn't you? And he went and walked off. That's all I got. Never did admit it, but I know that's what he did.
What a kind soul, man. That's wonderful. Yeah. That's a nice story. Thank you for telling me that, man.
There's another guy here, Jimmy Lee Sloas, that I definitely have to mention as a mentor. He and Jackie during that time carried me around to I don't know how many sessions just so I could watch and get my feet wet. And it was, I'd say, better than any school you could attend. You're sitting there watching what you want to do. It's unfolding right there. So
I've heard his name.
Oh, dude,
I've heard his name a bunch of times.
Yeah, he's the Holy Grail, and he's been here longer than me, and he's still kicking ass. So
that's great. Yeah, I'll tell you a funny bass player I had here was I had Dave Rowe on.
Okay, so I work with his son as a drummer, Jerry Rowe.
A badass drummer.
Badass drummer, and I work with him quite a bit. So
that's funny, man.
Never met Dave, but
he's funny as hell. He's hilarious, man. I got a chance. Great. I was at NAMM walking around, and we had to meet physically, which is nice, so it's always good to see.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hey, man, for each of the, I'm talking about some of the artists you've worked with. Tell me how you got the gig, and maybe a cool or interesting story about working with them, Mark.
Okay.
Let's start with Reba.
Okay, Reba came through Jeff.
Okay.
Originally Jeff's wife Tammy, who's a badass fiddle player, had the gig first before Jeff or I did.
Okay.
And then Jerry McPherson was there while Tammy was there.
Hmm.
And then Jerry had to leave. Jeff got pulled in. And then Tammy left to do her band thing called the Steel Drivers, which is amazing if you've never heard them. So, then Jeff's in there, and then their bass player's leaving, and he, it's what I experienced with Jackie at that table. It's basically, this is how it works. You have to be great, but somebody's going to throw your name out at the right time.
Right, right.
And that's how I didn't have to audition. It was like, it was just a word of mouth thing. Yeah.
That's really nice when that happens.
And two of my biggest gigs that I had, I was handpicked and didn't have to audition. So I have done that before. I have auditioned, which is, it's a process.
Yeah.
But for Keith Urban and Reba, I did not have to audition.
Very cool, man. Who was Chris Rodriguez playing with Keith back then?
I hired Chris.
Did you really?
So I hired Chris and Chris McHugh. Chris Rodriguez
cool.
and Chris McHugh. And Jimmy Lee Sloas, who had been offered the gig because he had played on the records, he was going to tour with us with the opening act because he was producing her record.
Oh, wow.
So he told the Urban people, he said, call Hill to do the band leader gig. And I tried to talk him out. I said, Sloas, man, you let me play for the opening act, and you should do this Keith thing. This is your gig, And I had 2 lunches with him going, dude, I'm not going to do this. It's your gig. And he just kept saying, do it. Just do it. So I did.
That's cool.
And it was great.
Yeah. That's great, man. And you've been with, so how long you been with Reba now?
So I started with Reba in 2010. So it's been a minute.
10 years now, man.
Yeah.
Coming up on 10 years. Awesome. Toby Keith.
I played on one of his records, and that came through. There was a period of time kind of when the, mechanical or the sales of CDs was dropping off. Streaming was really kind of starting to come into play. And, the music business was kind of in flux, trying to figure out its way, navigating those two paths. One was going away and one was coming out like a lion, and you couldn't stop it. So there was an era there where some of the really successful songwriters kind of took over to produce the records, or they were even kind of pulling the producer out of the picture. And that's what happened.
The revenue was dropping on.
I think that they were just saying,
"Hey, we could save a big chunk of revenue."
Yeah, if the writer can come in and produce these songs he's written, he's getting all the writing credit. So man, and I'm kind of guessing at that. That's just what I think was happening.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's kind of what happened. There was this guy named Bobby Pinson, who's a very successful songwriter. He was an artist for a while, that he had written most of the songs on this Toby Keith record. And they just said, well, can you kind of produce them? He's like, sure, let me get my guys in here. And I was his guy.
Oh, cool.
So it came that way.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
Can you
Again, you never know how things are going to play out. It's you can't figure that stuff out. It just kind of happens.
Man, I'll tell you a funny story that I learned that early on working with all you guys in Nashville. When I first started the show, nobody knew. I didn't know anybody, and so I was interviewing guys just got out of what's the music school there? Belmont. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sure.
Young kids, and I had this one guy I was referred to named Blake Rinn. I don't know if you know Blake. He's
I'm not sure, dude.
Guitar player. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, thinking to myself, wow, I wonder when, for lack of better terms, I'll move up the food chain.
Yeah, sure.
And so after I interviewed Blake, who turned out to be just the most amazing young, I call him kid because he's young in age, but what a wonderful, I would just talk to him yesterday. We've stayed in touch for 2 years. I still talk to him all the time. He's a great guy. He goes, hey man, I want to refer you to my friend. He's a mentor of mine. His name is Jerry McPherson. And I'm like, wow, here goes. And it was cool because I was like, you don't know who knows somebody else. And I learned that very early on from Blake. And then of course, Jerry's turned me on a bunch of session guys, and it just exploded from there, man. It was really
on a different level too. As I came up through the ranks as a session player, what I noticed was little second engineers that are sitting in the corner that are barely saying a word. I see them at this certain studio over and over again. Then all of a sudden, they've blossomed and they've produced a hit pop song. And well, who's this quiet guy over here that's got the #1 song in the nation? I've seen that happen more than once.
Wow.
Careful how you. Of course, I'm a Midwesterner. I believe in people, and you should always treat people well.
Regardless,
I've seen some engineers. The main engineer kind of scolding the second engineer and kind of go, oh, that's uncomfortable. I don't want to be in here for that. That kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
And you just always treat people well, because you never know who that might be your next gig,
Well,
and that exact thing happened to me where the kid's name was Sean Schenkel. He worked for Keith Thomas kind of as a, not really a second, but more of a kind of programmer guy and just doing things. And then all of a sudden I'm getting calls from Sean going, I'm producing for so-and-so or whoever. I'm going, why aren't you that quiet kid that,
Wow.
So you just never know.
Do you know Mike Durham?
Oh yeah. I know Mike?
He's such a great player. He said something to me one time. Yeah, I didn't know how good he was. At the end of the interview, he just picks up his guitar and my jaw hit the floor. He was just noodling around. I'm like, oh my God. He's like
total badass.
Like a Jack Pearson kind of a guy,
Yes.
But he said to me, he worked with a guy named Barry Beckett at one time.
Oh, yeah.
A guy who basically, I think, founded Fame or one of the studios.
Yeah, he was a Muscle Shoals keyboard player. He was just a great producer, writer. Yeah.
And he said Barry had something on his door, and he never forgot. He said, "Be careful." Something. What was it? The be careful. Basically, the toes of the feet. Okay, that's what it. Be careful, because the toes of the person you're stepping on today will be attached to the ass of the person you have to kiss later on your way down.
Right.
And
that's a good feeling, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So I think it's just good practice to treat everybody nice anyway. But like from a professional standpoint, it's smart as well,
And that kind of leads me to, there was one question on I don't know if you're going to get to this one.
No. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Was there any, life events that kind of changed the way you think? And I think, and I try to teach my sons this almost every day. It's like, man, never create enemies. There's nothing to be gained from creating enemies.
Yeah. And,
early in my session career, as, I'm an artist too. I'm a bass player, but sessioning is a service industry.
Very much.
There are times when I'm sitting there playing a part that I love, and I think, man, this is so badass. And maybe the producer or the writer, it's not their vision for the song. And early on, you know, I would really fight for that kind of stuff because, you know, I'm a little type A when it comes to that kind of thing.
Sure.
My good friends are really laughing because he's going, not a little.
Well, because you got pride of ownership, man. I totally get it. It's not about being right. It's about, you know, feeling
the creation.
Strong. Yeah, right. I get it.
But in the end, it is a service industry, and learning that work ethic, and, you know, because if you get too passionate about it, then you are kind of creating an enemy, because is that guy going to call you back?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're always trying to make that phone ring again and keep the phone ringing.
Oh, hell yeah.
So just never, now there's times to draw a line in the sand, and I have done that. There was a couple of producers I worked for that, you know, for whatever reason, they were just disrespectful. And I just drew a line in the sand and go, I'm not going to work for him. You know, it's just,
good for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a good professional decision that everybody has to make. At some time, you got to fire a client of yours.
Yeah, and that can apply to any work.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Yeah,
yeah. You know, there's a price. You know, some things there's no price for.
Yeah,
you know,
that's exactly right.
Be an asshole to you. You know, you don't need to put up with that, regardless. You know, it's just not necessary.
And I think, you know, one of these days when I'm looking back on all this and just kind of being nostalgic, I think that those couple of moments where there was one moment, in fact, where I drew a line in the sand on a session to the producer, and I called him an asshole, and I said, I'm not going to work for you. And, you know, the room was full of people, and I just said, this ain't going to happen. You know.
Wow, he was that horrible.
He was that horrible. And
did you walk out?
Well, the session was at the end.
Okay.
And it was kind of the way he was kind of saying goodbye to people, and what he did to me at the end was really disrespectful. And I just called him an asshole and said, you know, that'd be a cold day in hell before I play for you again. And I do still feel it. But in his defense, he did call me, and kind of course, this is before, you know, socials and all that kind of stuff. It just, by word of mouth, it got around town back to him that, you know, it was still being talked about, and everybody had heard about it. You know, because everybody loves a good story.
I know. I hate, don't you hate that? It's like, you know, you almost regret saying it just because now you got to listen to it 20 times.
Over and over again. Tell me how you said it. What did you say to him?
Yeah. And then you got to explain it. And
But he called and apologized.
He did.
He did. 2 weeks later, he
that's
called
really
and
cool.
And said, you know, I was out of hand, and I was like, dude, that's great. Thank you. You know, so.
Wow. Did you ever wind up working for him again?
That was kind of at the end of their run. Okay. No, I did not. But I don't think he did a whole lot more work.
Okay.
So
that's good that that's always good when.
It was great. I was blown away and thought it was a cool thing.
Yeah, I don't have a problem apologizing to anything.
Man.
I've screwed up so many things. I have no problem apologizing. I'm like, I feel better when I apologize, because it's like the slate's clean now. You know,
that's the one thing about parenthood. You know, because, you know, parenting, it's like there's no instruction manual.
Yeah.
And the one thing I think I've done right is apologize to my kids when I've done something wrong.
I'm the same.
You know, just immediately just go, you know, that was not good parenting right there. So
yeah, no, I've done the same thing, and it'll pay off, because my sons now are 29 and 27.
Oh my gosh, dude!
I got a granddaughter from my older 5-year-old granddaughter, and they tell me now, you know, I really appreciated that you did that, or, you know, you don't get any feedback till they're like in their mid-20s. It's kind of like,
well, that's when they kind of understand the life part of that too, you know. It's
right. Like my son's got a 5-year-old now, so he gets it, you know. And but I always believe that's important to do, because then you're teaching them that, hey, man, it's not about being right; it's about doing the right thing.
Damn right, absolutely.
You know? And I think that's an important thing for them to for them to learn for themselves. You know, to understand that just makes your own moral compass a little lighter.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Heck yeah.
Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins, that was a one-song thing, and I'm not even sure who was producing it, but I think that came from Chris Rodriguez.
I was going to say, because he's been with Kenny a long time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it was, you know, I had heard that Kenny was very demanding and not hard to work for, but you needed to be on the edge of your seat in a good way, and it was that way, but he was awesome. It was, cool. You know, I think we spent a whole session on one song.
That's great.
It was great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You've toured with a lot of the artists you've worked with. What are some of the tours that you've enjoyed?
Well, I think the Keith Urban thing, which was the Be Here tour in '04, I mean, it was so challenging because it was the first time I'd ever been a band leader or musical director.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how deep that role could go. And I don't mean musically, I mean like business wise, because I ended up negotiating the money for every band member, down to who got what bunk on the bus.
Really?
Oh yeah. Cause it's just, it can get really complicated.
Wow.
And this was the first time that Keith had gone from kind of the normal Nashville, whatever the show pay was at the time, to I want session players and I want to really step this up a notch or two. So the money had changed quite a bit too. So dealing with all that, and I remember it was about a 7 or 8 day negotiation just to get it all worked out.
Wow.
I quit halfway through. There was like a business manager that would call me and we'd bounce numbers around, and then Keith called and, he wasn't happy, like pretty elevated, and so I remember hanging up the phone that day and just going, I'm not doing the tour. It just didn't work out. And then, another business manager calling me going, well, hey, let's work this out. It's like, I guess it was a little good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
But, that's one of those times where I drew a line in the sand. I said, hey, I'm a session player. I've got this much work in town.
Yeah. Opportunity cost.
Why would I leave town and then
lose money?
Yeah. I'm not going to do that. Nor would you.
Nor would anybody. Yeah. It's opportunity cost, man. It's going to cost you money to go on tour. And now you can't go to bed with your wife at night and you can't see your kids.
It's all part of the equation.
Come on, man. There's a premium for that. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So, yeah.
Good for you.
But the curveball they threw at me was, I was basically negotiating my own money and kind of going back and forth. And then I got a call from the business manager saying, here's what we're going to pay the band a night. You work it out. So you can give this guy this, you can take this much, we don't care. But this is what you have to work with. So it was like I had to, kind of basically get with the band and say, okay, everybody's on a different playing field. We don't talk about this. Everybody, if you're happy with what you're making, this is what I've got worked out for you. This is the last we talked about. And it was great. Everybody was very pro about it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It was, yeah, a lot of tummy trouble during that time.
Because now you got to make everybody happy, and you got to make them happy, and like you're not even that happy right now. So
totally.
Yeah. So that's a lot of shit. Yeah, that's a lot.
It was, and I was. We had it linked up to a recorder, so we were recording every night. The first, it was a pretty compact tour. It was a fall tour. I think we started in June and went to Australia in February, and then that was it. That was the only thing I'd signed up for. And I was recording every night for the first 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And listening to it on the bus after the show, and even all the band guys were listening to it. They wanted to make it. We had to be sure that we had raised the bar for him. But
that's worth money. The guys that are doing that, the fact that you're doing that, that's why you deserve more money.
Right. And Keith even came to me maybe 2 weeks into the tour and he was like, oh my God, dude, I feel like I'm standing in an open field. I can play whatever I want. You guys are with me. I said, that's what
But that doesn't just happen. It's not just like magic, like you just said a secret chant and that happened, right?
No, it was the core of that band was Chris Rodriguez, Chris McHugh, and myself. And we had done sessions together. We played live together. It was,
yeah,
it was badass from the get-go.
Yeah, but that takes work, man. You got to pay for that, man. You can't. Yeah. What do you think? What would you say? Knee-jerk reaction. Top 3 sessions you've ever done.
Top 3 sessions. I would say this is going to go way back in time, but there was an artist named Wes Cunningham, and the name of the record was 12 Ways to Win People to Your Way of Thinking. And
wow, it's like what do you call it?
Yeah, the book, right? Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, right.
Napoleon Hill.
yeah. But these were his songs. The 12 Ways to Win People were his song. So and producer Monroe Jones, and I got to say, Monroe, he was a guy that I got recommended to. Let's go back to our conversation with Jackie. I got recommended to Monroe Jones by Jimmy Lee Sloves. Something Jimmy couldn't do, right? So he said, call this new guy Hill. He's good. So that turned into a 15-year career with Monroe.
Wow.
One phone call. Lots of records.
That's amazing.
That's, I tell people all the time. That's how it works. So this record, this cat, Wes Cunningham, I was leading the sessions. So that means that they give me the songs early. I chart them out. And, Monroe was always using the same band, so I didn't have to call players, but it was we were going to do this record in, I think, 2 days, right? And so
12 songs in 2 days.
Yeah, that's cooking it pretty good.
That's heavy duty, yeah.
But the budget wasn't there. He wasn't signed yet. So they were kind of doing it as a demo that they were going to upgrade to master. So they sent me the tape, and it's basically a cassette. That's how long ago it was. And it's this guy's 4-track demos, like he had done on a little cassette 4-track. And I couldn't stop listening to him.
Oh, is that good?
So badass. And I called some of the players, and I was like, dudes, this is going to be cool. This is really good. And I think it was the first thing, Monroe was a producer that pushed me. He pushed me to find different bass tones, stuff that I wasn't as aware of, and in a great way. He pushed me. And then this artist steps in, and I think it was the first time I had really seen true artistry. Like, this cat had written all the songs. He was living it. He pulled up in this shitty old Chevy Suburban that he called, it was a name for like Claire or Bonnie or something like that. And, I'm standing outside the studio. We were already set up, and he pulls up, cloud of dust, rusted out, door flies open, McDonald's packages fall out, and he's just like, where's this recording studio? I'm like, hey, Wes, I'm Mark, your session leader. And he came in, and it was just magic. Like, when he sat and played the tunes, it was like magic. I still listen to that record to this day.
Wow.
It's really cool.
That's cool. It's called 12 Ways to Win People
to Your Way of Thinking.
Win People to Your Way of Thinking.
And I believe it's still on iTunes. And my brief stint on Facebook, which literally was about 5 months.
Your guest appearance.
I had this bass player ask me, he's like, what's your favorite record you ever played on? And I named this record and maybe sent him a link to it. And Wes, I think he's a school teacher in Chicago now. Like, the record company, he ended up getting to deal with Warner Brothers. They dropped the ball, and it just never did anything, which is a travesty to me. But, Wes saw that post. I don't know how. I don't know if we were linked with friends. And he got back to me. He's like, dude, I just can't believe you said that. I was like, dude, I've said it for 20 years. It's still my favorite record.
That is so cool.
And we did it in this tiny studio in 2 days. The drummer, who was Dan Needham, the drum kit was up. So we were kind of in this basement. The drum kit was up this tiny spiral staircase up to the publishing house or wherever we were. And I'll never forget it. It was a great time.
Who's playing guitar on that?
Gary Burnett.
Okay.
Yeah. Who I don't see him much anymore. I think he's had some health issues, but killer hippie guitar player,
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Really, really good record.
So, top 3 sessions, Wes Cunningham, 12 Ways to Win People Your Way of Thinking, number 1.
I would say that number 2 would be my first session with Charlie Peacock, because it was a very unusual situation. Charlie Peacock is another producer who pushed me. And there are the producers who you just kind of come in and play for, and then they're the guys that you kind of, when you pull up, you go, oh my God, what's going to happen today? And Charlie was definitely one of those guys where I was almost nervous every time I worked with him, even after 20 years of working with him.
In what way? In what way?
Just what's he going to have me play? Can I get out of his head onto my bass what he wants?
Okay.
But this first session was for a band called Out of the Gray, and they had a record called Diamond Days, who the legendary bass player Tommy Sims had played on. And he's another mentor from afar. I never really got to hang out with him, but certainly love his bass playing. He had played on this track, and this is back in the tape days, so analog tape. And I get this call from Charlie's people, and they say, actually it was Charlie. Charlie called me, and he said, he's a very soft-spoken guy. He said, the good news is we're going to work together. The bad news is you have to learn this part. So it got accidentally erased. And Tommy was already gone. He was like, I can't come back. I'm out on tour, whatever it was. I don't remember the situation. But they had a little cassette of a rough. But the bass was gone. The bass was on the rough, but it was gone from the master. And it was a Tommy part, and Tommy's badass. So, dude, I camped out all night. I can't remember if I was in an apartment at that point or not, but just learned this bass part verbatim. Because Charlie wanted it. It's got to be exact. I got to have what I had, And so I got there with the engineer, Shane Wilson, I believe was the engineer. And Charlie had an office kind of up this little staircase, kind of loft office. And so he really wasn't in the studio. He was just like, okay, you guys go in there and get your bass tone happening and start working it out. And Charlie sat up there kind of working, doing his thing. And I'd do a take and be like, oh, yeah. And I hear, not quite, not yet, from the loft. He's kind of listening and producing from up there. And you know, after that day, I finally nailed it. And I worked with him for 20 years, you know.
It's amazing, the longevity. Yeah. This is so cool. You know, there's not many businesses in general where you have this, you know, the relationship where you can have a relationship with a person and work with them for that long. It's really rewarding.
And to grow as a player with them.
Yeah.
You know, because you see the styles of music change. And if they're a great producer, they change with it. And then you come along and change with it. So you're always kind of reinventing.
Yeah. That's
what makes you have 30-year careers, is keeping it fresh, listening to new music, whether you like it or not.
Adaptability. Yeah.
You have to adapt to it. Yeah.
For sure, man. I think that you guys are business owners. And I've always said, for me, the most important skill any business owner can have is adaptability to change, because everything's going to change. And
sure.
You can't keep tracking with, you know, guys who were doing search optimization years ago, that changed. And then this algorithm, whatever business you're in, you got to be adaptive.
It's going to change. That's right.
And you've got to really be comfortable with that. You know, if you're regimented, and it's going to be tough to own a business and be successful long-term. I
worked for a surgeon who one time, his name's Charles Brunicardi. He's a head of surgery at UCLA. And he's actually he teaches surgery, but he also plays guitar, and he does these little folk records that are great. And I got to work with him once. I actually led his sessions as well. So I got to know him pretty well. And I just, you know, I was sitting with him and I said, Chuck, how do you become this successful? I mean, you're just, holy crap. He's like, he was working with Pixar to develop 3D animation to teach surgery.
Wow.
I'm just going, I played a bass, you know, it's like, well, come on. And he said, think of it in terms of 4-year periods. He said, every 4 years, do something.
Yeah.
That you learn a new skill, you reinvent yourself. And man, that can apply to just bass, whether you know, pick a new bass player you want to dive into, whether it's Jocko or
sure,
you know, Jamerson, and you go, I'm going to dig into that and learn as much as I can about it. I may not be able to play that way, but I will learn something about it if I dig into it.
Yeah. And you'll have to grow your own style. Yeah,
absolutely. Like your rendition of, or my rendition of trying to play Jamerson will sound like this, you know?
Sure.
And that's applicable on some sessions, you know? Yeah. So
I think
just a constant reinvention.
It's healthy as a creativity too. It's healthier for that as well, you know?
For sure.
You can't create only what's in your head already, right? So you got to get new shit in there.
Well, and it's easy to become stale doing that, because you'll play the same shit on this record you play on that record, and then you're going, well, both of those are on the radio, you know. So, you know, so yeah. I mean, there's limitations certainly with certain kind of artists where you're
sure.
You know, I'm just doing the fundamentals of bass, and that's, you know, session. It's a service industry, so you're doing your thing. But there are times when you can step out and do something, and then you just don't want to be doing that twice on a record that's on the radio. You know?
Yeah, man, that's awkward for your own psyche.
And electric guitar players, they have it so much worse than me, because they're creating the hooks, and they're going, yeah, I played on that single, and this was similar to that, so I got to change it. You know, I got to do something different. So
yeah. Number 3, Wes Cunningham, first session with Charlie Peacock will be number 3.
Well, I would say that any session I got to do with Michael Busby, God rest his soul, he just passed away in September, brain tumor, very tragic story. Don't mean to go dark, but
sorry, man.
The young guy that had 3 kids and very demanding producer. Some guys couldn't deal with it because he was so scopy but so nice about it, and always for the good of the song. There was never any just trying to, you know, make you work for nothing. And I learned early on his sessions he's a bass player too, and a good bass player. So he would have these mock-ups of things he had done. And, if he was in love with them, then I had to figure out how to play like him but still make it my own.
Sure.
So it's, again, never creating enemies and learning that lesson and kind of going, okay, I'm going to dig in and see if I can get in his head, read the room well enough where I can go, know when it's right, read his body language to know when it's right, or know when it's wrong, and have the balls to go, Buzz, help me here. This is not working. What did you do on your thing? And he'll come out and grab the bass, even show, or whatever. And so every session I did with him was a learning experience in a very, very good way.
But that's great that you would say that, hey man, help me here. Not, this is bullshit. It doesn't work. That's totally.
Well, there's a time in my life where the bullshit comment may have come out, but age and wisdom have taken over.
Yeah, right. And then you say, hey man, I need some help. And that's cool. Yeah. That's really cool.
And not being afraid to grab his part and learn it, and really, there might be something I take away from that for my next session that's not with Busby.
Yes.
This is a cool, like for instance, he had me playing bass with a pick with a piece of tape on it. So you didn't quite get the click of the pick, but you still had the motion of a pick.
That's interesting. I've never heard that.
Oh, it was awesome. It's kind of like a felt pick, but the felt pick didn't make the tone poke enough.
Right.
So he was like, hey, let's just take your pick and tape it up. And then we were out there, taping a pick up and trying this pick and that.
What did you tape it with? Just like
gaff
duct
tape?
tape? Oh, gaff
tape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was great.
Yeah. This is kind of a similar question. Top 3 overall music experiences. So live, studio, could be whatever.
Top 3. I don't know if I have 3. I would say.
That's cool if you don't have 3.
Jeff and I got to play in Kelly Clarkson's Miracle on Broadway, which is a Christmas show.
Oh,
she did as a benefit every year. We only did it 2 or 3 years, but I can't tell you how fun and hard those charts were. It was, Christmas songs are always the hardest. Always the hardest. Why is that? They're deep. They were written a long time ago, most of them.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're a deeper caliber.
Got it.
And we had a horn section, we had a string section, full band, and like 4 days of rehearsal, then the show.
And this is up in New York?
No, it was here.
Okay.
On Broadway, Nashville.
Okay.
Miracle on Broadway, and I just can't tell you the camaraderie of the benefit nature of it.
That's cool.
And the songs, the difficult level of them, it was just fun. I don't know. I think Jeff would say the same thing.
That's
it was a cool moment.
Anything else come to mind?
Well, there was one time when I don't know if this is a top musical experience, but it was certainly something that should be mentioned. I was touring with Curtis Chapman, who's a Christian artist. Right. This was early in my career. This was probably 93, 94. And we played Radio City Music Hall and left the venue, got on a plane, flew to Holland, did a 30-minute set at Flavo Fest, I think it was called, a Christian festival over there. Never saw a hotel room, got back on a plane, came back to the States and caught back up with the tour. It was crazy.
How exhausted were you?
It was like, I remember sitting backstage at the show, and for some reason it was me and the monitor guy. We're sitting there, Rob Nevalainen was his name, and not a word was being said. And we just kind of made eye contact. And we were just exhausted. And he chuckled. And then I chuckled. And then we were just uncontrollable laughter. Nothing was said. It was just absolute exhaustion. We couldn't believe where we were. And we just played radio. And it was like, oh,
and then
crap.
you just met, where was the next show? Like
I don't remember.
Pittsburgh?
I think I slept for 3 days.
Oh my God.
It was
Dude,
exhausting.
That kind of flying knocks the daylights out.
Oh, it was rough.
All righty. Low points. Tell me about any low points or dark periods that you had to go through, and how'd you get through them?
Well, this is one of those questions where I'll go, how far do you want to pull that veil back? Are you talking in the business or personal life or both?
No, personal or both, man. Whatever.
Okay.
I'm easy, man. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Okay. Well, this all happened at the same time. So,
joy.
so, in all honesty, the whole story is I had a pretty tragic life from 18 on, because that little family band I was telling you about, we had a bad accident where a family member was hurt really badly. It ended the band. And then shortly after that, my brother, who was my best friend, had leukemia, and he passed.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And I don't mean to go all dark, but it is part of my story.
Man, listen, that's a lot. If you think you get through 50, 60 years and don't have something like this, I haven't met that guy or gal yet. So,
yeah,
so
that
I'm
all
so
happened.
Sorry.
Thank you. And he was a drummer, he was a songwriter. And so it was tough, but then fast forward to 2016, and 2016 was kind of an era when they were really trying to figure out streaming because CD sales had tanked, right?
Sure.
So the clock strikes 2016, January 1st, work takes a dive. Now, when I say it takes a dive for me, I was still working, but it was regrouping. And a lot of guys said the same thing, Well, 2015 to 2017, I lost 6 family members, elder family members.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
And had a 30-year friendship fail at the same time. So all that happened in a 2-year period.
Man, that's a lot of stuff.
So that's when my love for podcasts and really kind of understanding how to quiet your mind, like meditation, things like that, became very, very important to me and vital, to this day. Because it was a pretty dark period. It's like my hometown funeral home. I was like, the guy said, I was like, can I get an apartment here? I'm here all the time.
Yeah, you're the best customer. That's not good.
So some of these weren't surprises, and I don't mean that. It was, but they were
elder
family members.
Pain less.
But it was like my father, grandma, grandpa, my wife's mother, a good friend of the family. So it was just like shit was hitting the fan all at once. So it did take some, digging in and figuring out how to quiet the mind and make sure I could go to a session and play well while all this shit's going on,
How long? 2 questions.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry. That's a lot of loss in a short.
It was tough. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's difficult. So 2 questions. How long did it take you, if you've recovered from that, till you're, I don't say normal, because what is normal? Till you, seriously, like, right? How long did it take you till you, I guess, weren't thinking about those things all the time? Till you were able to sort of, I don't even know if you could, I've not been in that position, so I'm struggling for words,
No. I think it was, there was a time where I was walking into a session and putting on the happy face and just kind of going, none of this exists right now. I got a guy paying me to be here.
Yeah.
So I gotta do well. But I think dealing with those, figuring out how to quiet the mind, that became vital. And that takes practice. That's not something you just go, I'm going to quiet my mind. It really does take practice.
What did you do to quiet your mind? And how did you come to the conclusion that that's what I need to do? Because that's interesting.
Well, let's go back to Shannon Forrest, who I told you I'd learned some things from him. We were talking about this kind of stuff one day, and he said,
he's such a great guy to talk about this, because he's so real. And the guy is like, well, he doesn't like, he's very real, man. So he's
no bullshit.
Yeah.
He said, have you ever read Eckhart Tolle, which is a Power of Now? And I grew up in a conservative Christian home, and this guy does not dispel Christianity. He doesn't dispel any faith. He just says we're all kind of looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
We're all spiritual beings, and here's a guidebook on how to look at things a little differently. Like all we have is this moment. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist ever.
Yeah.
It's only right now. There's phantoms of the past or memories of the past, but to sit and worry about what's coming makes no sense. It's a horrible waste of time. Now I'm not saying you shouldn't plan. There's kids' college to plan for and things like that. There's things to look ahead to, but there's
planning and living are 2 different things, man. Some people are so consumed with worry, they're always living in the future, and none of this shit ever happens that
very rarely
you're worrying about anyway.
Yeah. So I think Shannon gave me the idea for that book, and I read it, and I called Shannon back. I was like, dude, this shit's so deep. I can't. he said, "Are you reading it or are you listening to it?" I said, "I was reading it." He said, "Go get the audiobook and let him read it to you."
Right.
So I probably listened to that book between 4 and 5 times in its
Great.
entirety. And then there's another book, a handbook called, Exercising the Power Now, or I forget what the title is, but it's just a little handbook that's
Like
super cool. The high points. The high points of the book kind of compiled, And there's some stuff I don't agree with him on. It's just kind of a way of an MO, a way of operating now, where it's like I just kind of try to stay a little more centered. I don't worry about the things that happen. You're not your mistakes. And I try not to spend too much time looking ahead to what could happen.
Yeah.
So it keeps you centered in a good way.
Do you also feel, because I had a thing back in 2009 where everything, it was like the universe was really pissed off at me and I had a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, man, and like, I'm a pretty strong person, but it was just a lot of stuff and I needed help.
Sure.
And one of the things I got out of that was I promised myself, if there's ever stress in my life moving forward, it ain't going to come from me.
That's great.
Yeah. And at that point, it was like, I just stopped, not immediately, but I started working on, I'm in the present. And then I started playing guitar a few years after that, which really helped me, because when I'm playing guitar, I realized, wow, this is great because I don't have a choice. I have to be here.
Yeah.
I can't be thinking about
exactly right.
Something that happened last Thursday or a meeting I got in 3 days. Cause
that whole mentality just has a way of hyper focusing you into where you are right then.
But did you feel
that?
What I felt was, and I was curious, like a 1 million pound weight of stress lift off once you're able, and look, it's a work in progress. I sometimes will think about, but I'm aware of it now. So I'll say, man, don't worry about that unless it happens.
It wasn't a magical moment for me. I didn't feel that weight lifted off immediately. It's a constant thing, daily, hourly, sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, literally you can meditate as you're walking up a set of stairs. If you just focus on each stair and your foot hitting it, that means you can't be thinking about something else.
Yeah.
Whether it's past or future, it just centers you. It roots you.
Steve Vai, I had him on the show. That book was a massive influence on his life as well. Yeah. I had the book for years. I've got to get it now. And I think I'm going to get the audio.
Listen to it.
Yeah.
And there's some head scratchers. He'll say a few things where you're kind of going, what the hell? But man, he's figured it out, in my opinion.
That's cool. I've heard that. But you don't have to believe you're reading a book. I wrote
take out of it what you can. Yeah, right.
If you like it, it's not for everybody. It's whatever you take, like they say it like NA meetings or AA meetings, take the good, leave the bad behind.
Absolutely, man.
And that's you do. It's funny when you're younger, you're reading a book and you feel like you're compelled to read every page. Now it's like, no, I don't like this. Let me skip to the next chapter. It's okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man, for sharing that. I'm really sorry for all that loss that you had. That's a heavy thing.
And I was careful about people to whom I told these stories, because it was never a search for pity. It was a fact. It was a season I was in, and it was, my whole family, my wife dealing with her mother, losing her mother, and all that was, all hit at the same time. So in fact, I was supposed to go to Europe with Reba, and, my bags are packed, and we're kind of on the outside of this season, but her mom had just been put in hospice with colon cancer. And my bag was packed. I was trying to I'd already let the people know. It's like, there's a chance I might not be able to make this trip, because I got my wife here, my 2 boys, and her mom, who's 3.5 hours away. So it's like, I got to have somebody take care of my boys. We don't have any family in town. She's got to be up there with her mom for hospice. I don't know if I can go to Europe. I just don't know how can I sit on a plane and wonder what's going on for 8 hours? And so literally my bag was packed in my studio over here, and I was pacing, just kind of going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So finally, literally the day of the flight, and we had already made arrangements to have my tracks available so they could play so they would have bass, because we couldn't get me replaced in that short time. And I called road manager and the band leader. I said, I can't go. I said, it's killing me because of my work ethic and my Midwestern farmer upbringing.
Well, you
And I
got
called Reba.
responsibilities to other. You're thinking about the whole team. I totally get that, man.
I called Reba and I said, Reba, my place is here. I cannot go. And she said, you're right where you're supposed to be.
That's
She was
nice,
just
man.
awesome. Just
That's
stay
really
there and
nice.
take care of your family. So it was great.
Hey, and you're still with her. So obviously you made the right
and that was,
decision, man.
exactly. So,
Yeah,
well, she is a class act, man. I can't say, in fact, to this day, the best artist person I've ever worked for. She's just real,
Notice something about her. I don't know much about her, but I know she has had a lot of ups and downs in her life.
Absolutely.
And when you have that, if you're half a human being, you're going to have more empathy for other people, man.
Yeah, for sure. And
because
I think she had just lost her dad or was about to lose her dad during that time. So, man, she was just like, you're right where you need to be. That's exactly what she said.
That's nice.
There was no making me feel guilty about it. It was just all positive. So I'll never forget that. It's amazing,
great, man. Thank you, man, for sharing that.
Yeah. It's part of the story,
Yeah.
Like it or not, it is part of the story.
Let me ask you something. Jeff mentions to me, and if you don't want to talk about it, if it's out of place, he said there was some like fire. Was that you? Like a fire or something?
I don't recall a fire.
Okay, then it wasn't. It was not. You might have mentioned.
Unless I'm forgetting something.
No, you wouldn't forget being involved in a fire, man. That's not something that happens there. It's not like getting on an escalator. It's not something.
Well, the only thing I can think of he might be talking about was I told you that my family had a horrible accident, and there was a fire on the bus leading up to that.
Yeah, that might have been it.
Like a little electrical fire that made us stop for just a few seconds. And when we got back on, it was just a few miles down the road that we hit a semi. So, without that fire, we would have missed the semi. You know what I mean? So maybe that's what he's talking about. But it was a horrific crash. So, again, not to get dark, but
no, man, that's life.
Yeah.
You can't tell about low points without it's reality. Everybody's had them. And, I think it's helpful. It's helpful to me, to be honest. And I think other people, I think we all feel like alone sometimes. Like, is anybody else going through this? Because
if nothing else, hearing somebody else's story to know they've gone through the shit,
Yeah. And because you see that on Facebook, all you see on Facebook is, here's the, it's like everybody's a Facebook mom and a Facebook dad. And like, it's funny, man. I tell the story. I have these, I know these people. They're married long time. There's nothing there, man. But if you look on Facebook, you would think, wow, this is the most happy couple. It's like a Facebook marriage almost. And I'm like, man, why don't you both exit that thing? That your lives will be really good.
Well, I think it was Eckhart that said, talking about the socials, because it's become such a part of life for most people. He said, you got to realize when you're watching that Facebook, that feed, you're seeing a completely edited movie.
Yes.
You're not seeing all the shit that's cut out on the floor.
Right.
You're seeing exactly what they want you to see. And it's usually not
rainbows and
truth.
Rainbows and unicorns,
it's like,
man.
You can see my house from here. Everything's fine. It's like, not so much,
Right. We're on vacation. We're doing
right.
Okay. And I'm not,
It's an edited movie and they're seeing what they want you to see.
I love that. It's an edited movie. Social media. Facebook is an edited movie.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
You don't see all the film on the cutting room floor.
That is very true. Mark, tell me a couple of things that you've done that were out of your comfort zone at the time, but they turned into musically, but they turned into really good opportunities for you.
Anytime I've played upright, because I'm kind of I own an upright, but I finally have a good one, and I've really been digging. I've become a huge fan of crooner music, like Sinatra and all the just really classic stuff that I don't really get to play. And in fact, when I've done a few stints in Vegas with Reba, Brooks and Dunn, and there's a little club there called the Tuscany, right close to where we stay. We stay in a condo. And just out of happenstance, I think Jeff and I went over there as a lounge, and there's this band playing. There's this older gentleman playing bass. His name's Kenny Seifert. I got to know him. Total badass. Like, if I could name one of my major influences right now, he'd be at the top of the list.
Wow.
And they do this kind of World War II era music, just a trio, and this girl's singing. And I'll go over there. I'm like, they only play on Monday nights, and it's like Monday night, I'm like hauling ass to get over there, and I sit through all 4 sets.
Wow.
I stayed till midnight.
That's cool, man.
And I got to know the guy, and I even the last time I was there, it's like I recorded clips so I could play to him, so I could learn what he's doing, you know. And I've offered him, like, Kenny, and you know, he's probably late 60s, and he still loves it. He's been there for 40 years doing this.
That's cool.
And I don't know. I'm trying to get him to teach me. It's like, dude, I'll pay, you know, whatever. He's like,
sure.
He said, just play. I don't teach. I said, I'm not schooled. I'm like, I don't care. Just get together with me. You play, I'll watch. I'll learn something, you know.
That's great.
But I would say that's my biggest challenge right now, because I've always kind of skirted away from it, turned sessions down, because, you know, they want 3 days, but the last day is going to be upright. But they want to keep the band the same. So, and, you know, now that I have a good bass, I did this record for this French Canadian artist. I can't remember her name right now, but it was the first time I had used my new bass. And I was just trying to Jeff was there, and I was trying to keep it quiet. It's like, you know.
It's amazing how much work you guys have done together.
Oh, dude. He and I for 30 years.
That's really nice.
Countless sessions. But, you know, I went in the room to play this upright, and it sounded great. The good dude, John Palmieri at Sony Music, had it mic'd perfectly. The room was perfect. And it was like, I walk in the control room, and I'm like, it sounds just like I envisioned upright should sound. And they're all just going, nice. Dude, killer. So I'm going, I would say that's my biggest, you know, I feel like that's where I'm going to stretch, learn to play some more big bandy kind of music. And I think that will open up some areas in electric bass. That'll be fun, you know.
That's very cool, man.
Yeah, but dude, if I ever stop learning, put me in a ground somewhere, because it's like every day I want to learn something new about the craft. That's reinventing again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any advice you would have given your younger self on anything that would have made your life easier?
Gosh, never create enemies. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not, you know, I haven't created a bunch of enemies. It's just, I think it's so vital to life in general, you know.
It really is, man. It's just anytime you put negative out, it's just, even if you feel good for the second.
I know. Yeah.
It's just never,
it feels good right then, man. But you're just going later that night. You're going,
yeah,
oh man,
I could have handled that. You know?
Yeah.
That's another thing I learned, man. Like, I never react. Like, I always, you know, I read that and I wish I would have read this book. There's a book called Love and Logic.
Ooh.
It's written about how to discipline your kids.
Oh.
And I wish I would have read it earlier.
Yeah.
And one of the things the guy talks about in there, now they have like Love and Logic for teens, Love and Logic for it's really good.
Oh, wow.
He said, listen, man. Well, he said, if, you know, when your kids are screwing up, he goes, you have a tendency, you want to go in there and say, stop this right now, and you're grounded for a year, right? And he said, man, don't go in there and give them that punishment. He goes, go in there and say, look, I've asked you to stop. You didn't. There's going to be a consequence. I don't know what that is right now.
Sure.
But I will let you know later. But and that's another thing. I was like, wow. Because when you go in there and that stress is like killing you, right? So now once I read that, I was like, wow, that was great, man. Because now you just say, hey, man, I'm going to deal with this later. But and it's almost like they're a little bit like, holy shit, what's he going to do?
Yeah.
But more important, from a selfish standpoint, I'm not stressed out.
And then you don't have to go back later, like we were talking about, and apologize for
right. Sorry, you're not grounded. For, you know.
Yeah, that was I may have overreacted a little bit.
Yeah, right. But so, and that's what I learned about not reacting right away, and it really helped me, because I said, okay, I'm going to do this in everything, you know. So someone sends me a nasty letter or posts something negative, I I just table it till later. Because
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good advice right there.
What's urgent here? I mean, that I got to get like get that out. No, I just like go for a walk for 5 minutes or something like that. I'm usually better.
You know, I would say too, you know, on more of a musical level.
Yeah.
When one thing I wish I could have told my younger self, I learned this without trying, but I tell all the young bass players that have asked me advice, I tell them about this moment, and it's hard to describe because I was new to town and I was trying to understand, you know, bass tone is so important here. You've got to have a great bass tone. And I was looking for that. I was like, trying different basses, different preamps, different pedals, and all this kind of stuff, kind of looking. It was like I had icing, but no cake.
I like
you know
that.
What I mean? It was like I was looking for all this peripheral shit that I thought was going to make tone good. I was at this festival, right? And there was this Christian band named Chagall Guevara. And they were made up of Lynn Nichols and Steve Taylor, Wade Janes, Mike Mead. They were older than me at the time. They'd been around for a while. A couple of them were record execs, and they kind of just had this band as a fun thing, but it was really good. And they were playing before us. So for some reason, I walked out to the house console. And, you know, you got to keep in mind, I'm still, I got the icing and no cake. I got shit, but I don't have the fundamental tone, you know. And I walk out to the house console, and they just started playing, and I just turned and looked, and Wade Janes was playing bass. I don't even think he plays anymore. But he knew where bass tone came from. It came from inside, man. It was like his bass notes were just going, they were punching me in the gut, man. It was like I was just going, holy shit, he's got the cake.
Yeah.
And it was all inside, you know? It was like every note, he jumped inside that kick drum and boom, man, he was just digging in and locking in with that kick drum. And I was like, holy shit, this is all internal. And I played better that night. It was like a Zen moment for me.
That's great.
And I don't care what you play until Shannon knows this better than anybody, until you're pulling it from your guts. Every note you play, I don't care what you play, you're not playing yet. You're you know, icing without any cake. You got to have both, man. It's like every note that Wade played that night, I just stood there with my mouth open going, I don't care what bass or what amp he played, it would sound like that.
Because of what he was
because
feeling
of where he's pulling those notes from.
Yeah, that's nice, man.
It's hands and heart and soul and musicality and pulling from everything you've grown up with, all rolled into boom, you know, hitting those notes. I was stunned.
That's nice, man.
Yeah.
I saw Phil Collins recently, because I had Daryl Sturmer on the show.
Nice, yeah.
And so he was very kind. He gave Ann and I tickets to the show. They were down here, and Leland Sklar, who's coming on the show soon, was
what a loser.
Basically, he's a bass
He'll
player.
never make it.
I've never, you don't usually notice that, but oh my God, that guy, it was magic just listening to him play. It was just phenomenal. And you don't, in a big arena, it's hard to hear that.
Totally.
But he's got what you're talking about, man.
No question. You don't have a 40-year career like he has if you don't have that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a subconscious level thing. And, you know, that's the thing about meditation and understanding how to quiet your mind that helps with that too, you know, because that's all coming from the same spot, you know, in my opinion.
Do you like formally meditate? Like, do you actually have quiet downtime?
I do. Yeah. You know, and it can be, I've learned how to do it sitting on an airplane with my eyes wide open. You know, there's a way you can get into a spot where you just shut the mind down.
Yeah.
And whether it's you pick up a spot on the chair and stare at it, I'm only going to think about that spot. You do that for 3 minutes. That is a meditation.
Totally. That's what I do, man. I do it for like 90 seconds, to be honest with you. And it's like really helpful.
Even to the point, you know, we all carry phones. I wear glasses. There's times when I'll set my phone down on my glasses and my mind is so busy. That's how you lose things. So now I've gotten to a point with 3 items: phone, eyeglasses, and keys, where when I set them down, I stop and I look at the spot and I tell myself, where am I sitting at? That's a meditation.
Yeah.
That's a meditation about you're not going to have to look at your phone later because you've quieted your mind to go, okay, I know where this is.
Sure, man.
And that is a quick little meditation. And you can make your day full of that, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
if you choose to.
I agree with you. It's about shutting the brain down.
The noise. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
cutting off
so
the
full of
noise.
mental noise. Now I do guided meditations on the phone with the headphones occasionally, and
Sure.
those get a little deeper, you
Mm.
know, and those do take practice because you find yourself coming back to thinking about things and then pulling it back to quiet, and
Yeah.
that getting better at that, it takes practice.
I always admire though, these guys are like, how often do you meditate? Like an hour a day. I'm like, holy shit. That how do you, or else these guys are going like, did you ever read 10% Happier?
I've got that app right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a very good book, but he was talking about like he went on for a retreat for a week. And I'm like, oh my God, that is nothing that I would ever, I could not, I don't know how.
I can see myself doing that.
That's great, man.
I've got a buddy that lives right up the street here. He's a fellow session player. His son and my son are best pals. His name's Jeff Roach, piano player. And he went to the Abbey of Gethsemane, which is it's a monastery in Kentucky. And it's a vow silence. And you just go up there and they have little rooms you can stay. There's no cost. I mean, you can voluntarily give if you want.
Sure.
But, and it's either them doing their chants or silence. You can't speak.
How long did he do that for?
I can't remember how long he did. I just remember him saying when I got in the car and started the car and just the road noise freaked me out. Like it was so much louder than you think.
Wow.
Because you've gotten used to.
After he had done that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and I've got another buddy that went to that. I'd love to do that someday. Life's busy right now with kids in college and that kind of thing. But
sure. Yeah, that's great.
It's a cool thing.
Any cool or interesting stories about how you acquired any of your basses?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked. There's two, and I got to get them both equal time.
Awesome.
So my brother, who I lost, when I was really learning how to play, so I was probably 16, somewhere in there, 15 or 16. I grew up a couple hours south of St. Louis, and there's a bigger town there called Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and that's that's where we shopped and went to movies. And well, there was right across the river there. We lived in Illinois. Right across the river, there was a music store, and that's when Music Man Stingray basses came out. They were so popular. They had this unique look, had one peg out of the bottom. They were 3-in-1, and that round pick guard, and everybody was playing. And God, I wanted one so bad. It was just like this music store had two of them hanging there. And I think they were $900 at the time. But to me,
it's a lot of money.
Working on the farm, I was driving a VW Bug, and it was like, holy shit. And how can I? So I would, after school, man, I'd drive over there, play that Stingray bass. I was just hanging back on the wall. And the store owner would be like, hey, you gonna get that one these days, aren't you? And I was like, I'm working on it, My brother, having somewhat of a business mind, bought the music store.
Oh my God.
With the help of our father. I think my father ended up co-signing, and my brother was wanting to get in, be more business oriented. He bought the music store. So I go over there after the transaction has taken place, and he's kind of getting settled in, and I look up and the bass is gone. I'm like, that bass I wanted so bad is gone. And my brother saw me looking at it, and he was like, come back here. He had taken it down, put it in the case. It's like, you can work that off here. So that's your bass.
Wow.
I still have it. Still play it.
That is really,
isn't that a great story?
That's a great story, man.
Yeah. So,
man,
what a guy to do that for me,
Yeah.
Because he knew I was a player, and he was leaning more towards business and songwriting and things like that. But he knew I was a player that was kind of commanding some attention, and he made that happen.
That's really awesome, man.
So the other story is more recent. So my wife, Ginger, we've been married 26 years, I think.
Congratulations.
And yeah. I mean,
awesome.
we've beaten the odds so far.
Yeah, man. That's a lot of work. People don't realize like how much work, because we're at 27. People don't realize not work like going on the farm, but it's like, man, you got to.
Hey, love is a verb, man, right?
Right. You gotta compromise. You gotta, bend, and you gotta like support each other, man.
Sure.
And every day that's hard to do. You piss each other off sometimes,
Oh, hell yeah. Hourly, not even daily. So,
well, especially you're home a lot. I'm home all the time. I work out of the house, so
right.
And so does my wife. So,
but luckily, I'm usually doing sessions 12 hours a day on Music Row somewhere. So,
good.
It's. But she had a little band too. Her family. That's how we met.
Now,
I mean,
is she from
yeah,
Illinois
she's
as
from
well?
Illinois as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So we had known each other since we were little bitty. And there was this guy in her family band who he was not related, but he kind of became a grandpa to them. He was just a good dude. His name is Maurice Canada. And, you know, when I would see him, I had long hair at that time. He'd always call me hippie, you know, and he was just he was a farmer too, but he liked to play guitar. And he had a 68 Jaguar and he had a Mosrite bass, which is what the Ventures played, right?
Yeah.
Very unique. To me, it's like what a Hofner wants to be.
You don't hear about those very much.
No, you don't see him very much. So he had these these two instruments, the Jaguar and the Mosrite. And we have pictures of her when she was 5 and he's standing back there playing this Jaguar. So, you know, we moved down here and kind of lost touch with him. He passed. His wife was around for a long time. And then she passed. And their estate went to auction. Well, these two guitars are in this auction. And my wife goes, I'm going to drive up there and get those damn guitars. And I said, do it. So she's up there. I was working. I couldn't go up with her. And she's never been to an auction in her life, you know. So she's, you know.
Neither have I. I don't know what that's like.
Well, she called me and said, what if I don't get them? And I said, just whatever it takes. There's so much sentimental value. We can deduct it from our taxes because I use them for, you know.
Sure.
So there's all the reason in the world to get them. And she got them both.
Awesome.
So we have, and I used the Mosrite on Richard Marx record, and then Ronnie Dunn just did a covers record, and I used it on there.
That's so cool, man.
So yeah, it was really cool to get those. And she didn't spend, I think we spent $2,500 on both of them together.
That's pretty good
so
value,
it's
man.
like, you know,
a vintage 68 Jaguar alone, you pay more than that.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
So it was a cool story. And there's, I don't know if you remember, you're my age. So remember those little labelers back in the day, the red tape?
Oh, yeah.
It was like a punch gun.
Click, click. Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of those on that bass that he put on there, like to identify that it's his bass. And they're still on there. And it's like, we're not taking those off, you know.
Those labels called, man.
The label maker thing.
The little thing with the circle, and you go click, 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 click. You change it, the letters. Yeah. That's funny, man.
Isn't that cool?
Those are great. Yeah. That was like space age back in the day.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah.
You're like, wow.
You probably still get one on eBay. I might have to look that up. Yeah.
Well, now they have them they look like mini typewriters, and it's
totally. It's a computer.
And it's like, it's just about as big as a 6x6, but it's like it just prints out a label.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen those for sure.
Yeah. That was good though. I can't think of the name of it. Favorite guitar players you've enjoyed jamming with? Or not jamming, but playing with?
Oh gosh, certainly Jeff. Just the hours. He's a guy that has tone in his hands as well.
Yeah.
Bukovac. You know Tom Bukovac?
I know who he is. He doesn't want. I have spoken to him a couple of times, and because everybody wants him on the show. He's got a lot of fans, and he just said, "Look, man, I'm not." This is a while back, and maybe he's changed, but he said, "I don't really like doing." He doesn't like coming on shows and.
Yeah. Well, some of us are not self-promoters, I definitely fall in that category too, but it's good to do this though. I think I'll try talking into it.
Yeah, man, I'd love to. Let me tell you, he's one of the most requested people I'd love to have him on. I've listened to him play. You talk about tone.
Unbelievable.
That guy's a genius, man. I mean,
and I would say the other guy, JT Cornfloss.
Yeah.
Those are just very soulful guys, and the bar is so high here.
Yeah.
No kidding. It's like every day I walk into the studio and the guitar player, Rob McNelly, there's so many great players.
There is a lot of great players.
The bar is very high. First
record you purchased?
Oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
How much is that doggy in the wind?
Not that bad. But keep in mind, I was in a Midwest conservative, so there was restrictions.
Yeah, I get you.
And my brother and I, we were just like, come on, we just want to go get some, so we can learn our craft, and just so happens, Cool in the Gang Celebrate was out. And I loved that bass line, and finally talked to my parents. I was like, I just want to get this record, and it was a cassette tape, and I got that and sat in my room for 8 hours, learning that bass line.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Tell me your top Desert Island discs, top 3, no particular order, and just for now.
Number 1, Los Lobos, Colossal Head. Do you know that record?
I do not.
Oh my God. It is produced by Mitchell Froom, engineered by Chad Blake. I think it came out in 96. Just an amazing sounding record.
Colossal Head.
Colossal Head.
Oh, Colossal Head. Okay, I'm going to check it out.
Colossal Head. Mm-hmm. And, Los Lobos is not a band that I've followed or paid attention to that much, but that record in particular, the musicianship, the way it's recorded, the way it sounds is special.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I'm going to check that out.
Definitely. Anything Tom Petty did. I mean, I'm a huge Tom Petty fan. Gosh, third one. I don't know. I'll have to think on that a minute. I always loved the Yes Big Generator record.
It's later in their career. That's interesting.
It is, yeah. And because of the song Big Generator, I think that's one of the best bass tones I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, Chris Squire was.
Forget about it. That's why I play bass with a pick the way I do, is because of him.
Yeah, he's such a great player. Was such a great player.
Yeah.
Monster of a man, too. I saw him. I mean, it's just a massive dude.
Yeah, I don't think you want to piss him off.
No, I saw him with my son the last tour they did, and I was like, holy crap. We had like.
I never got to see them.
They played the whole. They played this like the second and third record. What's the record with Roundabout on it?
Oh yeah, 901. No, that was before that. That was the Owner of a Lonely Heart. That record.
Yeah, it was way back, but there was 2 records they played the whole thing.
Wow,
it was interesting. Mark, best decision you ever made?
I think making the decision to come down here.
Come to Nashville.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that we're geographically challenged here on what we can accomplish musically, because you don't have the big pop tours like you do in LA, or you don't have Steely Dan recording here like you do in New York. You know what I mean? So, but I still think it was a good thing for me to come down here.
Sure.
It's worked out well.
Well, yeah, just look at the results. It's worked out well.
Yeah, I'm never one to say, I don't like the word successful. I always say I've had success, because there's guys way more successful than me, that have had more successes, and guys who haven't, so I just always say, yeah, I've had successes at what I do,
Yeah, I understand that. I totally get that vibe, man. Yeah, because it sounds like, I'm successful. I don't know. That's just a hard. Yeah.
Right.
I know what you're saying. Most important things you've learned about yourself.
I would say that came from that dark era, where I just really learned how to get the mind quiet and try to understand consciousness and all that. That, like, a lot of the podcasts I listen to are pointed toward that. Understanding how the mind works.
Yeah, that's an important thing, man.
Yeah, very.
If you have a mind.
Well, yeah. I am a bass player. I do play 3 out of the 4 strings I have.
You're great, man. This is a tough one. What do you like most about yourself?
Oh, God. Pass.
No, man, you can't pass on that one.
I would say, I don't know about that. I've always had, I think because of the way the business is, I've always had a good financial mind. And part of that came from my dad. He was a thinker, so I've always planned well.
So live below your means and stuff.
Live below your means, and just this could go away tomorrow. So, let's make sure debt's under control, and
Sure.
And I'm glad that I have that bent. It makes things easier.
Oh yeah, because life sucks as it is sometimes, and now you got on top of it. That's a heavy.
Well, thing. And I know session players who are my age who haven't planned for. We have this issue with our pension right now. The union's pension is kind of tanking, and there's really no seeming.
Their pension fund.
Well, yes, and now they're saying that we're probably, if we're lucky, we'll get half of what we had.
Oh my God! Why did they make some bad investments?
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of pension funds across the world that are in trouble. Just because it's kind of a system that, it's supposed to be put in a lockbox and you're gaining all this interest, but.
Well, yeah, there is no interest now.
Well, yeah.
Nor has there been
almost
for
going
10
into
years.
Negative interest. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So exactly. And some bad management decisions on the, it's a fund that's managed by musicians. So,
Yeah.
So I'm just so glad I planned beyond that.
Good for you.
I just looked at the pension, and I would tell all young players, create your own sound financial plan. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. You be proactive.
Yeah.
It's on your shoulders.
Yeah.
If the pension is there when I retire, great.
Yeah, gravy.
Gravy, exactly.
Yeah. Flip side, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I think musicians in general tend to be self-centered, because you're just you're clawing your way through the career, and you're going, look at me, look what I can do. And, it's like my wife she's free spirit and very selfless.
Right.
But I think if I could change one thing, I would try to be more that way.
More that way. Yeah. Cause I don't you'd have to convince me that you're self-centered, to be honest with you. Like, I don't look, this is an interview, it's different, but I don't get any remote vibe.
Well, I think when I say self-centered, I think, if you do a session, like, I can't tell you how many times this has happened. It's happened to Jeff. It's happened to Shannon. It always happens where you play on a successful record for somebody.
Right.
Like, I did a record for a guy, there was 2 number ones off of it. They came around to do the next record. They called a completely different band, and you go, why didn't they call it that? So that's what I mean by self-centered. Oh,
okay. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. But I hear this all the time. If it's any, which
Oh, totally. Yeah, of course.
It's like, I've heard that story 40, 50 times of, and you're like, why didn't they call me? And you're almost like, oh man, they're doing another record. You're like, I wonder what dates it's going to be. Let me clear my calendar.
Totally.
What?
But see, now my mind is more, I don't really, if I get the news that somebody's used somebody else, I just go, fuck them. It's their loss. And I'm not thinking in the past. I'm right here, right now. Who else am I going to get to work for that day that I wouldn't have been able to work for?
Right.
Well, so
you tend to be less emotionally attached to outcomes. I find when you work more in the present.
Totally.
Yeah. Which is a huge
no question
lack of stress relief as well. For me, it was,
and nobody's perfect at it because we're all human, and those thoughts will, any player that tells you, Lukather, I don't care who it is, they've had these thoughts,
100%.
When their career changed or waned or whatever, they've had these thoughts. Anybody that tells you they haven't, they're lying to you.
No, they're lying. I had a guy one time, asked him, I think, what are some mistakes that you made early on in your career, and what did you learn from it? He goes, I have no mistakes. And I was like,
bullshit.
Right. But like, if you're going to even say that, I just moved on because it was like so detached from reality. I'm like, I'm not going to unwind this. If you want to believe that, great. If you want someone else to believe that, it ain't happening, but that's fine.
Right.
I'm not gonna, not my job to fix you.
Exactly.
Happiest moment or happiest time in your life?
I would almost have to split that in two, because there was a time in my career married with kids that I would focus on and say that was perfect.
Right.
And there was a time in my childhood that I would say that was perfect because my brother was still around. Right. So that time in my childhood when my brother and I were heavy outdoorsmen, we did everything together. That was a very special time, but I didn't know how special.
Sure.
Until post. But I would say that when my kids, in 2008, there was still double scale sessions. I wasn't touring with anybody. My kids were 8 and 2. You know what I mean? It was just a really fun age. And, all my weekends were at home. Work was just crazy busy. I mean, it's crazy busy now too, but it was different then, just a different thing. That was a good time. It was a very good time. Yeah. And then they become teenagers, and then it's
dude, that's really, hey man, I got a daughter girls are much tougher than, that's been my experience.
I'm not sure I could handle girls. I have both boys and they're both doing really well.
Yeah, that's cool. My daughter's she's fine now. She's not
almost 20. They go through shit, they're figuring it out too. So.
Oh, that was baptism by fire, man.
Mm-hmm. That's the true test of parenthood, man.
Oh, teenagers?
Yeah,
Man.
yeah, that
It's really tough.
and
It's really tough.
I think girls are harder.
They are.
My buddies who have girls are just like, I see them at sessions and they've got bags under their eyes. They're just like, oh.
Oh, it's just like, it was, and then like she's going through puberty. My wife's just starting to go through menopause. I'm like, right. Right. I'm just like,
lucky you.
I would just like peek out my office door once in a while. It's like,
right.
So it was like landmines through the house. I just had to not step on them.
Well, I think my wife would say, well, he's kind of gone through menopause his whole life with this music thing, so my turn, but yeah.
Oh man. Do you have any hobbies outside of music?
I do. And while I realize this could be politically polarizing, both of my boys are competition shooters.
That's awesome. I knew as soon as you said, I know, I said, okay, he's going to talk about shooting. Yeah.
And it's something that I've done my whole life. But both of my boys have won championships.
That's awesome. What kind of shooting?
A trap.
That's
and
really,
speed,
that's really hard, man.
My youngest won first in the state this past year.
Are you serious?
I'm
That's
serious.
really cool,
and
man.
literally, I've had some amazing moments as a musician where I'm standing behind George Strait or Keith Urban or whoever it is. But when he won that competition, and it was a tie, they have a shoot off, and they just shoot 25 more, and then they have to move back and do it from a further distance. And my guy's so little; he's just a little guy, and he's using a smaller gun than this other kid. And literally, I'm going up to Ethan because we knew he had 1 second at least.
Right.
And I just walked over to him and I said, his name's Ethan, I call him E. I said, you've already won to me. I said, you're at worst, you're second.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'm going to try and win. And then I turn around and almost throw up because I'm just so worked up. It's like, you're doing great. It was so intense.
He must have incredible hand-to-eye coordination.
It was
That
unreal.
is so tough to shoot skeet, man.
And my oldest won a couple of competitions too.
That's great, man.
So
so
awesome. Anytime we can run up to the range and do that. And I have a farm. I have an 83-acre farm south of town.
Oh, that's great. So you got there. You can,
we'll go out there and shoot clay pigeons and have fun. So
that's awesome.
Ride four-wheelers. Just everything outdoor people do. So
yeah, that's a fun thing to do, man.
So
how do you grow up? You can't grow up on a farm and not have a gun.
Well, and on top of that, my dad was an FFL, which is Federal Firearms License. Okay. Back then, it wasn't near as much red tape. He didn't have a store, but he was basically a dealer for hunters and things around the area. So
yeah, the thing is, I think I'm not even going to go down this road, but it's like anything else. The people that you got to worry about are not the people obeying any of them.
Exactly. Trying to pass that argument off to people who don't agree with that is tough. But
yeah, guns are dangerous when they're in the wrong hands. But like I had some buddies in Idaho, and they hunted, and he just explained to me, because look, when my kids are little, I would have our guns would be out because I wanted them to understand, and I showed them how to work the gun and that this is a
take
tool.
The mystery away. You have to take the mystery away.
Right. And he said, we explained to them this is a tool and how to use it and how dangerous it is. And, when you do that, there's no, it's not like, hey man, don't shoot. You're hiding it. That's when I think
that's when trouble happens. That's exactly right.
It's like,
I think there's responsibility where you keep things under lock and key always,
of course. Absolutely.
Obviously that, but you never know when they're going to be at somebody else's house and maybe they're not as,
they're
safe
not
and
as safe.
secure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, both of my boys know how to disarm it and make it safe. So, I think it's a good skill to have.
Yeah, I think so too. Good. Congratulations on your.
But it's fun, when we'll pick an afternoon and the three of us will go up there and there's a range about 40 minutes away and just have fun, try to outshoot each other.
Is there any like small lakes or ponds on your property?
There's a pond and a spring.
Is there like bass in there?
Well, now that's the other thing. My oldest is a fly fishing, bass fishing. I mean, if he can figure out a way to be a guide as a fly fisherman, that's how he'll make his
That's
living.
Awesome. I love bass fishing. It's relaxing.
Yeah. So I grew up on a lake, kind of fishing every day. I don't do this much anymore. I don't know that I have as much patience that I used to have.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Start smoking cigars.
That's good sound advice right there.
No, it is, man. Because when I'm out there, if I fish and I smoke a cigar, I'm in heaven because it's like.
Oh, that does sound good.
It is.
We actually took a family trip last year to Montana. Went to
Oh, it's
Whitefish
beautiful there,
and then to Missoula, and then took a guided fly fishing trip. And my son was like, oh, he was totally hooked. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's beautiful there, man.
Dude, I could see myself buying a place up there and spending summers up there.
Oh yeah,
and winters down here.
Sure.
You know, because.
Well, even summers up there, man. Like there was snow on the mountains.
Absolutely.
In August.
We were there in July, and there was snow on the mountains.
Yeah, it's chilly up there in the nighttime and stuff.
And you know, we actually rode the ski lift up Whitefish Mountain. It was no skiing because it was summer, but dude, the smell of pine. It's just you're crawling up this mountain, and you're looking out over Whitefish Lake. You're just like, this has got to be heaven.
Yeah, it's nice.
You know, of course, property values reflect that. You know,
yeah.
So it's pretty tough. You know,
It's funny. We went to Colorado, man, and we rolled down the window, and all you smell is weed.
Well, I go to Vegas occasionally, and it's the same way.
Same thing.
So, yeah,
it's the same
totally.
thing.
Yeah.
Hey, toughest decision you've had to make, or most difficult thing you've had to do?
Oh, probably musically, I would say that anytime you're presented with a tour, like there have been times earlier on in my career when, like, I had toured with Curtis Chapman, and I had 2 other tours offering me a job, but I wanted to stay in town and do sessions. I didn't, you know, there used to be a bit of almost a penalty box if you went on the road.
Yeah.
As a session player, it was almost 2 different worlds. You didn't cross-pollinate. It's not that way now.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're on a higher level touring. But, you know, I was looking at a contract from Curtis Chapman that was very good. I had another band wanting me to tour with them, and I wanted to stay at home and do sessions. And I literally just said, no, I'm going to wait for the phone to ring and for sessions. So I stayed, and that was tough, and it worked, but it worked. You know, it was the right thing to do. On a personal level, you know, walking into my brother's funeral was a tough day. You know, that was a tough, you know, in fact, hardly remember it, one of those kind of days, but.
Yeah, that's gotta be really.
Yeah. It was intense.
Well, there's no frame of reference for that. None. Zero.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, watching your folks, my parents go through that. And now as a father,
right.
You know, because at the time I see them, you know, freaking out, but until you have kids of your own, you can't really.
No, your kids are not supposed to predecease you, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Thank you.
Yeah.
2 more questions, man. Funniest thing that's happened to you on stage or in studio?
Okay. This is between, this is on my way home from a gig. Okay. And it's funny, but it's not. But so Jeff King was there. Of course. So I had done a run in Vegas where I was playing in the house band at Caesars for Reba and Brooks and Dunn. So I was playing for both. And I had Vegas, you know, the water out there, a little dicey, and I had a little stomach bug, right? The whole time I was out there. And I had just kind of been put on this new medication for a little blood pressure issue. It was a very low dose. And it was pretty new, you know. So we do the run in Vegas, and, you know, I just hadn't felt great. You know, we went on a hike with Jeff, and my wife was out there, and we got halfway up the mountain, and I said, I'm stopping here. It just didn't feel right, you know?
Yeah.
So Sunday, we play Saturday night. Everything's fine. Sunday, we're flying home. Like Southwest flight, I get in my seat, get a movie going. You know, we're just get up to cruising altitude. But before we took off, I was sitting there in my seat, and something went off in my body that just said something's wrong. Like there was this red flag that went boom and then back down. There was no pain. It was just like something's not right. And I just was like, what was that? It was weird, you know, just kind of. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it was just, there was no symptoms. So I get up to cruising altitude, got my Mac, got a movie going. I'm just sitting there watching the movie. And then all of a sudden, this wave of nausea hit me that I can't even describe. I can't describe it. Like I've had the flu and then, you know, nothing like this. And all of a sudden black started coming in like this, tunnel vision, just started going. It was like Star Wars when they go to light speed. It was like, and I jumped up. It was just like reactive, right? And I'm going toward the back of the plane. The lavatory says occupied, and I'm like, oh my God. So I get back, I get to the back, and I lean up against the wall because I can't take this is coming like a freight train. Nausea in this thing. And I'm leaning up against this wall. This flight attendant, male flight attendant named Scott, he said, sir, are you okay? And I looked at him and said, I don't feel well. And the next thing I know, I'm laying on the floor of the plane with him slapping me on the face, coming to. Yeah.
Smokes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So you passed out.
I totally passed out. And, of course, everybody on the plane is thinking, oh, it's Sunday from Vegas. He was partying too much, and I'm not really a drinker guy.
Right.
So I don't do that stuff. And so they pulled me to the back where the galley is, right, behind the bathroom, because I couldn't move. It was like somebody had strapped 200 pounds to my neck. And so then I'm starting to think, okay, am I dying? What's going on? And I tell the guy, I sat there for a while. They gave me some water, some ice, and orange juice or something. And this dude, this nausea was just like, holy shit, what's going on? So I tell the guy, I say, hey, can you get me to the back? Just get me in there and, take care of business. And they open the bathroom door. They kind of back me in there, right? Fully clothed. Here, it's like, here it comes again, right? I'm like, oh shit. Now this time I think I'm gone. It's like, oh great, I'm going to die on a Southwest flight between Vegas and Nashville. Yes. So I sit back on the closed commode seat and I see just, I'm gone, right? Evidently my eyes rolled back in my head. When I came to, the same flight attendant's just slapping me and he is panicked. I hear on the plane, they're calling for a doctor, right? None of my band knows it's me because I was in the back of the plane. There was one guy sitting back there that saw it happen that was in our band, but so they call on the PA for a doctor, on the Southwest flight. And all the band guys are going, oh, somebody, it was one of their band guys. They had no idea. So finally, news gets to Jeff. And I sit on that commode with the door open the rest of the flight. 2 hours. I just couldn't move, It was just like, I don't know what was going on, but Jeff, my dear friend, right? He wanders back. And when he gets in eye shot of me, when he peeks around and looks at me, the look on his face is the funniest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. It was, oh my God, you're about to die. You know what I mean? It was just, it struck me as so comical. I laughed at the moment, even though I was feeling so horribly. And dude, he stood back there with me for a good part of the flight.
What was it? Did you ever get it?
They think I had a waterborne bacteria.
Wow.
Yeah. My doctor, when I went to him in town here, he was pretty sure. I mean, I won't even brush my teeth with the water out there at this point. Yeah.
Holy smoke.
It might have been a combination of new meds and that kind of dehydrating to a point of, the stomach bug that was all week long. And then it was like a shitstorm of three things, I think. So.
Wow, you're lucky.
Dude, it was intense, man. It's like, have you ever passed out?
Once when I was very young. Yeah.
I mean, it was like.
That's kind of freaky. Yeah. Yeah.
It was a freight train that it's like you were trying to hold back like this and you're going, this is futile. This is coming.
Well, that's the freaky part of it. Cause you're feeling like probably, oh my God, I'm going to die now. And
I almost didn't have time it was so weird. The second time I did, that thought entered my mind, but it was like the freight train was coming so fast. I couldn't think,
Wow.
So it's kind of a funny story and kind of an intense story, but
yeah, man.
All that to say, the look on Jeff King's face.
The look on Jeff King's face was priceless.
Yeah. It was like, what the?
Wow. Has that ever come back?
There was a time after that for about 10 days where I just didn't feel quite right. But, as I've learned that anytime you have any kind of that kind of bacteria, if that's what it was, indeed, it takes a bit to get it out of your system.
Yeah.
So just lots of water and, just kind of taking it
Well,
easy.
plus if new meds sometimes do that to you from what I
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to figure
I
out.
think that may have been a little too high of a dose. We pulled that down.
Okay,
Like I said, I think it was a perfect crap storm.
Perfect storm of
Yeah.
Wow. Glad
And
you're
there was
okay.
one time in Canada where I had food poisoning on stage.
Oh, that's horrible, man.
Yeah, where I was like playing a song and it's like, excuse me, going, whoa, you know.
Yeah, that's really painful, man. Food poisoning. Wow.
It was over quick though, thank God. So
yeah. Oof. Man, last question, Mark. What's been the biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of that has been intentional and how much has been just a natural part of aging?
I would give it like 70% intentional and 30% aging. But it's what we've talked about already several times, which is the conscious, just being mindful, conscious, and don't react. Think about things a little more than I did at a younger age.
I hear you, man. I like that you quantified it as 70-30. Your inner engineer.
Yeah, right.
your inner accountant pulled that out.
Well, I do have to give myself credit because I do work at it diligently. It's like whether it's reading about it, podcast, or whatever it is, it's constant. So
yeah, awareness is key, man.
Totally. Yeah.
Hey, listen, man. First of all, thank you so much. I'm so glad we finally got to connect, man. You're a lovely guy.
What a cool time.
I'm really glad we got to hang. Let me tell people where they can find you and what you're doing.
Sure.
Okay, it's markhillbassplayer.com if you want to check out Mark's website. He's available if you're interested in working with him for sessions, tracks, and he does some production as well. So he's got a very pretty comprehensive website, and so you can check out all his credits there. At the bottom of the site, there's a button. It'll take you to all of his credits on allmusic.com.
That's right.
So if you want to see what he's done, go check him out and hit him up. I'm assuming there's a contact tab.
There is, sure.
Great. So if you want to talk to Mark about sessions or tracks or anything like that or production, just give him some information, give him some background. I need you for a session is probably like a little vague. Just tell him what you're doing. And, this way he can get back to you with some reasonable level of common sense as to what he wants to tell you. And that's it, man. Anything else I forgot? Anything else we could sell or promote for you, man? You're a badass.
I do love, I've got a Tom Petty cover band. Jerry McPherson and I are in together.
Oh, that's awesome. You're in that band? I didn't know that. When do you guys, you have a standing gig?
We don't have a standing gig. It's just kind of when it's so check this out. Two of the guys are in Garth Brooks' band, Gordon Kennedy and Blair Masters. I'm sure you've heard their names. Jerry McPherson, Lonnie Wilson plays drums for George Strait. He's amazing. And then Brady Seals is our lead singer. He used to be the keyboard player, lead singer for Little Texas.
That's awesome.
ThePettyJunkies.com. It's great.
The Petty Junkies?
PettyJunkies.com. ThePettyJunkies.com.
ThePettyJunkies.com. Check them out. Let me tell you, all those guys are awesome musicians in there, man. So if you're around Nashville and these guys are gigging, please.
It's the best band I've ever been in.
Yeah.
It really is fun.
I'm not surprised, man.
Yeah.
Let me wrap this up. Thank you for everything, man. I really appreciate your time.
Dude, thanks for staying with me. I know the schedule was tough.
No, man. No, man. Flip that around. Thank you for being patient, man. Thank you for hanging in there. No, it's
awesome.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. Again, check out Mark Hill's website, markhillbassplayer.com. And if you're looking for an awesome bass player to work with, sessions, tracks, or production, hit him up on there through his website at the contact.
Absolutely.
And he won't make you angry.
He's a good man.
Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar or your bass, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Mark, thank you for everything, brother.
Dude, thank you, Craig. Happy New Year to you.
Oh, man, same to you, bro.